Okay, this one is going to be about vampire loads. I've heard a lot of people talk about it who really don't know anything, and they say a lot of things that really aren't true. So I've done a few tests here to see what the actual vampire loads on equipment in your house is. And I'm going to do another video right after this one a couple of days later, and I'm going to show all the conclusions, or I'm going to show all the information and the conclusions, and you make up your mind what's the right answer. Okay, in this vampire load here, I wanted to show you something. We are showing 1.88 amps being drawn by this thing off. Now, understand, I have this on a 10 times adapter, so the amperage is actually 0.18. Okay, now we're going to turn it on. Okay, now it's 0.19 amps with it on, which is probably those little LEDs down there that say 44. Now I'm going to do a voltage test on this too, and we will calculate the watts being used. Okay, here's our voltage reading, and that's an accurate read at 120.4. Okay, here our calc is 0.19 amps times 120.4. And that gives us 22.9 watts, pretty much whether it's on or off. Okay, we'll try a couple other of these vampire loads. Okay, this is a TV set we've got set here. It's a little bitty one there, 26 inch or something like that. Okay, now let's look at this. We are showing 0.3 of an amp, which is 0.03 of an amp. Okay. And our voltage at this time is 120, and I'll call it 122. 122 volts. That's with the TV off. Now you notice this number is way less than with the cable box. The cable box, of course, is an older box, and this is a pretty new TV. And when it's off, the amp draw on this thing is really tiny. So let's see what happens with some of the other loads. Try to turn the TV on and see what happens. Okay, the TV's on now, and we're drawing 0.5, we'll call that 0.6 amps with the TV on. Okay, now we're going to do this with one of the newer cable boxes, and we'll see what kind of amp draw and wattage we get from it. Okay, we're going to hook up the cable box now. Now with the cable box off, we're reading about 100.5 amps. 1/100th of an amp. Okay, and I'll give you a voltage read on these things. Okay, with a look at the voltage, we're running about 123. That's with the cable box off. Okay, figuring 0.0017 times 123 equals 2.09 watts. That's with the unit off. I'm going to turn the box on now. Okay, whether it's on or off, you're reading 16 thousandths of an amp. Okay, here's what this cable box looks like, newer type cable box. Okay, here we are with the Xbox. Plugged it in. Looks like 0.2 of an amp. It's now turned on, so it looks like about 35/100 of an amp, maybe a little more. Maybe we'll say 40/100 of an amp. Okay, next one is a TV set. TV's off. Okay, looks like we're running about 0.007 amps. That's 7/1000 of an amp. Okay, here we're showing with the TV set on, that's going to be 1.36 amps. It's a projection TV, so it does have fairly high intensive light inside it, but that's what the amperage draw is when it's on. And there's a look at what the voltage is with it on. Okay, we're looking at 1.36 amps times 121.4 volts. It gives me 165.1 watts with the TV operating. Okay, you can see now I've got all three plugged in, and we are showing well, keep them going down, say 4/100 of an amp draw with everything off, and I'll give you a voltage. Okay, with a look at the voltage, we're running about 123. Okay, with 4/100 of an amp times 123 volts, we end up with 4.92 watts. Okay, here we're going to test the amp draw charging an iPhone, and then we're going to pull the iPhone off and see how much it draws then. Now here's our happy little charger. Okay, you can see it's almost completely charged now, but let's look at the amp draw. Okay, here again, remember, we are taking the decimal point and putting it over 1. So we are about 17/100 of an amp, and that's actually charging it. Now, let's unplug the iPhone. Now, here's what you're drawing now. You're drawing about 8/1000 of an amp. That's 8/1000 of an amp with the phone disconnected. Okay, we'll call that 121. And I'll do the calcs on that. Okay, with the phone unplugged, 0.008, that's 8,000 thousandths of an amp times 121 volts equals 0.97 watts with the cell phone disconnected. Okay, the next video I do on this is going to come up with the conclusions on these vampire loads. It's fairly obvious what we're coming up with here, but I'm going to make some comparisons to other loads and so on, and we'll see what we find.